This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association. Your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley Smith.
Good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Today is Tuesday, June 18th of 2024. We're so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, I talk with Betsy Dirksen Londrigan, USDA Rural Administrator, as we had the chance to visit with her at the new ribbon cutting ceremony for the new Landus facility in Boone, that fertilizer production facility. Lots of great conversation there and quite the facility that they have built there right next to the Farm Progress Show grounds. But before we get any of that news started, let's go ahead and take a look at the closing markets.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
At the end of another trading day in the ag marketplace, we're here with Ross Baldwin of agmarket.net. Ross, a bit of a turnaround Tuesday in the markets today. Let's start off. How did things look in the grains?
Hey, Riley. Yeah, like you said, it was a turnaround Tuesday, and corn was 3 to 5 cents higher most day. July was the one leading the charge here. Actually, July closed just under the 100-day moving average, which is at 450 and a half. The settle today was right at yesterday's high for July at 450. Soybeans, they were the ones that had the bigger move across the grain markets, but it was mainly the July contract. And the July bean contract was settled at 11.74, which was about 16 cents higher. You go out, they've really been bull spreading that July-November bean spread, and the back month of beans, November soybeans were 2 cents higher. So it remains the July that is leading the charge, and the farmers just non-existent across the Midwest selling beans. And we have had some days here recently, the month of June, where China's been an active buyer of U.S. soybeans, which is a good sign to see. So it was a good performance to see out of beans, but very discouraging when you look at that spread and see what November did. I mean, November beans are just gonna, from my seat, are just gonna continue to struggle here. And over in the wheat market, the Chicago wheat was down about 11 cents, I believe. July Chicago was. Kansas City wheat was 6 lower.
So then when we have reports like WASDE coming out, obviously that was a bit of a non-factor recently. Also had CONAB come out, and it was pretty much the same of not really seeing much different in that report. So then looking ahead, we don't have too many more reports. Obviously at the end of the month we have a pretty big one. So, just what are the markets really kind of sitting to react to at this point, or is it really just kind of headlines as usual?
I would say it always involves if there's a headline or not, but for right now across the grain markets, it's primarily all weather is what the market's going to be watching here. And we saw there was the crop conditions that came out yesterday. Corn and bean conditions were both 2% lower. Corn was 72% good to excellent. Beans were 70% good to excellent. The trade was looking for a 1% decline across both of those. But probably the biggest number that came out of the corn conditions was Illinois' corn conditions dropping 9%. And over on beans, Illinois dropped 8% on that. And that is what seems like it gave the markets a little spark here today. But from a technical standpoint, the markets really aren't doing a whole lot other than bouncing off of the sell-off that we had yesterday. I mean, July corn, like I said, closed right at yesterday's high. We didn't close above the high, and soybeans they remain below yesterday's highs. But outside of the June 28th acres report, which that's typically a volatile report, that report and the weather, I mean, those are going to be the two biggest drivers. And right now the weather's, it's I would say a mixed bag. The better chances of rain for the Eastern Corn Belt, they're going to come early next week, but there's decent chances of rain that are covering some of the corn belt here over the next few days. So it remains a mixed bag, but that's going to be the biggest driver moving forward right now.
And then looking at the livestock marketplace, how did cattle and hogs trade today?
It was lower across both the cattle and the hog market. Cattle had that explosive day this past Friday when cash trade started shaking loose last Thursday at sharply higher numbers. But after the dust has settled since Friday, we were a little bit lower yesterday, and today's trade was a little bit lower. But across the fat cattle market, we were, call it 40 to 70 lower. August fats were 70 lower at 182.10. Over in the feeder market, they were around $1.40 lower. So on the week, fat cattle are about $1 lower. Feeders are around $2 lower. Really just pretty quiet. I think trying to catch their breath after that explosive day of trade we had this last Friday. The market gapped higher on the opening on Friday, and it never looked back for August fat cattle. That gap is still open from 179.67 to 180.35. That 180.35 is going to be a crucial area of support if we are to go down and test that. If we were to fill that gap and close underneath of it, that would not be a good sign. But the cattle market remains on good footing. The Packers got extremely aggressive last week. Cash, the South was mainly $1 higher, trading some 186 to 187. But up here in the north, I mean, cash trade was 195 to 198, which, I mean, shattered the previous highs that we had seen recently. And so, yeah, these are new all-time highs that we saw cattle trade for last week. I would expect the Packers to be able to slow it up a little bit. They did buy 95,000 head last week, which was a good number for them, but most of those cattle were bought in the 1 to 14 day window. So I don't think that they can get too complacent. So, but we do have a cattle on feed report this Friday. The guesses on feed is 99.2, placements is 99.4, and the marketings is 100.1. Personally, I wouldn't be surprised to see that placements number come in a little bit lower than what the guesses are. The on feed, whether it does come in low, it was a really low on feed number last year for this report. So the fact that it's a little bit below that, it is a good sign. And numbers are tighter when we're setting new all-time record high cash prices in the north during the month of June, which is not typically a time that you would be rallying cash. It shows you how tight the on feed numbers are. And over in the hog market, they were a little bit lower here today. July hogs were down $1.60. August was 30 cents lower. They traded an outside trading day, but they did close back inside yesterday's range. August found support at the 9-day moving average, which is 90.57. They're trying to recover off of that big sell-off that they've had here recently. And I think hogs will continue to find support, especially down at that 9-day moving average.
All right, Ross, lots of great information today. For those of our listeners and our viewers who would like to get in touch and learn more from the folks at agmarket.net, how can they do that?
You can reach me at our office here in Anthon. Our number is 712-373-3276, or you can visit agmarket.net.
Thanks again for the analysis, as always, Ross, and we look forward to hearing from you again soon.
Thanks for having me.
That again was Ross Baldwin of agmarket.net. We'll take a look at how the numbers closed through the market window at iowaagnet.com. July corn up 6 1/4 at 4.50 even. July soybeans up 16 1/4 at 11.74 even. July soybean meal up 4.30 at 3.64.60. Soybean oil up 57 cents at 44.30. Chicago wheat down 9 1/2 at 5.82 even. Kansas City hard red wheat down 4 3/4 at $6.75. Minneapolis spring wheat down 5 3/4 at 6.32 3/4. July oats up 10 3/4 at 3.28 1/4. On the Merc, August live cattle down 70 cents at 182.10. August feeders down 137 at 259.95. July lean hogs down 160 at 93.77. Pork cutout went unchanged at 103.50. And July class 3 milk down 51 cents at 19.66. And that's been a check of the markets here on Ag Matters PM. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association, and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, I have the Latest from the Landus facility in Boone, this is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Well, the impressive new facility in Boone for Landus, that fertilizer production facility, is quite the expansion. It is a large building, and it was going to be just a little bit smaller had they not received some grant funding from the USDA. I had the chance to visit with USDA Rural Administrator Betsy Dirksen Londrigan to talk about that funding, where it came from, and how that funding kind of fits the mission that they have at USDA Rural Administration.
Thanks for being out here today. Magnificent facility that we have here. Tell us a little bit about the USDA's involvement with helping Landus get this facility up and running.
We're so excited to be here. This is such a treat. Landus is an incredible partner, and so they are the recipients of a $4.8 million grant through the Fertilizer Production Enhancement Program, which is a program that President Biden and Secretary Vilsack stood up very quickly to make sure that we could domestically produce more fertilizer, because we saw what happened when we with the war in Ukraine, how that affected our fertilizer prices, how it affected our farmers, and they said we got to do something. So they put in $900 million to help stand up more fertilizer production, and that's what we've got right here at Landus. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was such a kind of almost a fresh wound for the farmers, because that was a pretty crazy time for the fertilizer prices to be going around. We didn't know about availability. So having that here locally for the farmers, and I just talked with Matt as well, since Landus is farmer-led, this is also kind of run by the farmers too, which is obviously something we love to see.
Well, and we love it too. I mean, I'm the administrator for rural business and cooperative services, right? So we love the co-ops. It's such a wonderful model because the investments can really go back in to the farmers, to the production, and wherever the farmer members think it needs to go. But this is a fantastic example.
And I like when you say the investment side of it, because this truly is an investment in the farmers.
It is an investment in the farmers. And, President Biden has been very, targeted about making sure that we are making these investments, in local places. And so I think in Iowa, just rural development alone has invested over $2.1 billion just in this administration. Over 8,600 projects just here in Iowa. I mean, it's amazing. And it's all about local investments, putting money back in the pockets of ag producers and rural businesses.
And of course, a big thing with Landus here is the sustainability side of things.
Huge.
Great to support that side of things as well, because we know that farmers want to be able to be sustainable, but now to have a facility that allows them to go after that, obviously another great part of the goal.
It's a huge part of the goal, and it's how, Secretary Vilsack talks about it a lot, about how it all works together, where you have something like a local producer creating, fertilizer. We've got this green ammonia being produced, and the farmers can utilize that. There's also programs like our Rural Energy for America program that people can use to receive grant funds for things like energy efficiency upgrades, a new grain dryer, a solar system that they can put in, and it all brings down their costs. It's money back in their pockets. And then we have a group out here at Talus who are the ones who are creating the green ammonia. They actually are working on a loan with us. And so it just paints a picture of how it all works together to lower costs, fight pollution, and this is all being driven by, President Biden and Secretary Vilsack.
Well, lots of great information today, Betsy. For those of our listeners and our viewers who would like to just stay up to date with what the USDA is pursuing, what they're supporting, how can they do that?
There is an incredible team here in Iowa, and the best thing about rural development is that every state has a state director, and they have local area offices. So rural development, when you pick up the phone and call, you're going to get a person. And so I encourage you to pick up the phone, make a call, and just hear what rural development has to offer.
That again was USDA Rural Administrator Betsy Dirksen Londrigan. And that's all we have for today's episode of Ag Matters PM. Thanks again for tuning in. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Also follow us on social media at Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok, and find our video content as well as previous episodes of AM/PM on our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell to see when those videos go live. Don't forget as well our free morning, midday, and closing market podcasts, as well as Pods of Potential and the Iowa Ag Matters podcast. You can find those wherever you find your favorite podcasts on Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of Mark Magnuson, Andy Peterson, Dustin Huffman, and Quentin Slater, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.